We all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. St. John Park Board meeting. Mr. Tyler, if you could give us the roll call, please.
Yes, sir. John Boersma.
Here.
Mike Moffett. Here. Mike Bovat.
Here.
Tyler McLeod present. Wayne Pondinas. Present. Nicole Bennett will be here but is running late. And I should mention our clerk treasurer, Beth Hernandez, also present. And Patrick Connolly is absent.
Okay, thank you. Item number 4, consider approval of minutes. I know we've been a little delinquent. We were trying to get these typed up, and they did get this all accomplished. So would like to consider approval of minutes for Tuesday, November 17th, 2020, Tuesday, December 15th, 2020, and Tuesday, January 19th, 2021.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the dates listed.
I'll second that.
That's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Go to, oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Nicole is running late, so if possible,
I'm in the park board meeting.
would you consider amending your agenda to start with consider Lake Hills Trail repair proposals under new business to hold off on the presentation from Spahn Ranch?
Sure, we can do that. We'll amend that. Like to consider amending and moving to 6 old business and then coming back to 5 new business.
Does that need a motion?
Usually.
All right, I'll make a motion to amend the presentation from Spahn Ranch.
And the Lake Hills and go to old business.
Yes, and then skip them all to the old business.
I'll second that.
That's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Item 6, under the amendment of the agenda, old business, update on the
I think we were going to go to the Lake Hills Trail repair proposal, right? I don't know. What?
well, we're going to hold off.
That's fine.
We're going to hold off. We'll go to 6, the old business, update on the CDBG grants for Prairie West parking lot and Founders Park projects.
Yeah, so in your packet is an email that we received from the Lake County regarding the status of our CDBG money we received last year, fiscal year 2020. We received $13,000 for the Prairie West parking lot expansion, and then the rest was going to be used towards the Founders Park project. It was $85,912 in total. Basically, the email is saying that the projects must be completed by June 15th, 2021. And this letter is urging communities who haven't completed their projects to get the ball rolling. As you guys remember, the Prairie West parking lot project was put on hold due to the bad ground at the park and the inflated costs that were associated with the additional work needed. But the CDBG, we are allowed to use that entire $85,912 for the Founders Park project if we decide to go that route. And I might just, Mike, just skip to the next item as well, because they're kind of, both of these items are related. Also in your packet is a letter from the Department of the Interior regarding the status of our DNR grant that we received for the Founders Park project. That was a $250,000 grant. And there's a list of the other projects that are in the same situation. We've been in this holding pattern at the federal level due to this tribal consultation process that had to be completed. And this was like an archaeological and historical clearance that all federally funded projects need. We were waiting for that clearance to take place, and then COVID further delayed the process. Up until this point, no construction or any type of ground disturbance could have taken place until this federal approval. And that's been the status of the project essentially since last June. What this letter does is it gives us permission to proceed with the project. It's a special waiver to move forward with the development and construction. This is the first meeting we've had where action could be taken. Just a few details on the grant. It's a reimbursement grant, so the grant requires matching funds in equal amount. And then as funds get expended, the town is reimbursed for those expenses. The reimbursement, though, it's important to note, will not take place until the final federal approval occurs. And we, at this point, do not know when that will happen. To give you a little update on the project funds for this year, we currently encumbered $250,000 from last year's budget. And talking to the grant coordinator, it's recommended that we have the full project cost in an account to ensure the project gets implemented on time and there's no delays. So to kind of go back to the CDBG, that deadline that they put on us is June 15th of this year. So our backs are kind of against the wall in regards to that $85,912 that we received from them. The DNR grant, however, does not have a deadline. We can remain in the same holding pattern if we wish, but we, again, would be potentially at risk of losing that CDBG money altogether. We are reaching out to the county to see if there's alternative options for that money. If we could, look into maybe completing a trail. We talked about maybe the trail at the gates. Soccer field is potentially one option. There's other things we could probably come up with too. Playground equipment or a poured-in-play surface at a playground, but I'm sure we could come up with other options. We're just waiting to see if that's even possible.
And then realistically, getting things going is going to take a little while also to implement it. So what do you think the outlook is for that, Tyler?
Well, we have an agreement with the Arsh Group, which is a firm that, we completed our master plan that the town has worked with before on other projects. And up until this point, we've gotten all the way to the point of the bidding process where it's ready to be bidded. It's just been in this holding pattern. So we have an agreement with them to oversee this project and to move forward with it. It's just we haven't been able to do anything up until this point.
All right, we've been pigeonholed, I get that. So,
How long is the project projected from start to finish? Is it like a year project, or is it a couple months, or? Because the $89,000, we won't get that unless it's completed.
By June 15th.
So there are ways that we could use the money.
Well, that's what we're going to look into, but we don't know that for sure.
Who's going to be spearheading this? The Arsh Group or?
They were, yes, we have an agreement with them, and like I said, up until this point, we've just been sitting on this, so. I think there's a few actions that would probably need to be taken here. One, do we want to transfer all that money, the CDBG money, to the Founders Park project, which, the Prairie West parking lot, that's pretty much, I don't know if that's going to happen. It's been discussed at some other meetings. And then two, can we get an additional appropriation if the board wants to get that full project amount in a fund to ensure the project is completed on time? which would be an additional $250,000.
Well, to me, realistically, you know, we got skin in the game. I'd hate to, you know, not move forward. If I could defer a little bit to our clerk treasurer. Beth, could you maybe give us some insight on this or any thoughts?
So I guess Tyler and I were discussing this today, and our initial thought was, so if you took, what was the amount from Prairie West Park, Tyler?
It was about 13,000.
So if you were to reappropriate the 13,000 from Prairie West Park and move it to Founder's Park, both of them essentially dealt with parking lot, and then Founder's Park, I think, deals with some sidewalks and connectivity.
ADA related.
It's all
Right.
ADA related. So when the county is saying that your project has to be completed by June 15th, in their eyes, is the project only the parking lot and the sidewalks? Because if that's the case, I don't foresee it being too much of an issue to get that portion of the project done by that June 15th deadline. If they're looking at the entire project, playground, pavilion, and whatever else is going into that lot, then that could be, I mean, that's a lot to bite off by June 15th. But I don't know that we have necessarily a clear-cut answer on what they consider to be project completed. I know Nicole mentioned she attempted to call there today, but I think county was closed. So, right. I did mention to Tyler that for the CDBG grant for 2018, that's how the town did the portion of the Gates bike trail that's already there around the soccer fields. So whatever was written in that grant worked and was accepted from a CDBG standpoint with the ADA requirements. Again, we're uncertain if they'll allow us to take the money that we've been awarded and move it to a totally different project, like finishing the Gates bike trail. But if that's an option, again, like Tyler mentioned, if they would allow us, that's an additional option that I think you could meet your requirements on by that June 15th deadline. The Prairie West parking lot, I think, at least by June 15th, that's a no-go. I mean, that they had quoted, what, like $400,000 to do
Right.
that parking lot, something crazy, so.
And there's absolutely no extension to this grant?
That was the first thing Tyler had asked, if, due to COVID-related circumstances and things of that nature.
So the first update we received from them was, I think, September 8th, where they were granting us permission to move forward with these projects. But by then, we were already, I guess, having doubts about the Prairie West lot at that point. And then Founders, I mean, there's really nothing we could do on September 8th. It's too late in the year.
Right.
So this letter was essentially just a reminder, hey, get moving. This expires on June 15th.
So like Tyler had mentioned, the town council submitted the grant on behalf of the town. So even if, and I don't know, Nicole would have to weigh in on this, even if you ultimately wanted to move that money over to Founder's Park or try to do, a different project, I don't know if the council would even have to, we have to submit something on town letterhead, and I would think, since Jerry Sweats is the one who signed the grant documentation, he'd have to be the one to sign the letter asking for the money to be transferred to a different project. I don't know that this board could do it on their behalf, but you certainly could make a recommendation.
We would support that.
Correct.
Absolutely.
Right. It's just, there's so many what-ifs for you to decide to not lose that money. So Founder's Park's been sitting since, was it 2018 as well, when we started that project? Just as a little background, we purchased that lot closed on it. It had a home. The town has so far just, they knocked down the house, so that's gone, and now it's just kind of a blank canvas. Like Tyler said, Tagi's group came in and did the site plans and the construction documents, and it's just been sitting on hold. The federal grant said, we're good to go, finally, but they can't guarantee us when they'll reimburse us the money. So that's another contingency, too. As far as your park impact fund, you have enough money in the fund to proceed with the project and wait to get your reimbursement on it, but there's no guarantee on when.
Well, I think,
From all my conversations with the DNR, they've always assured us that it's not a matter of if, it's just when. You know, they're not going to give us a date, but they say that, yeah, it's coming.
I think we should just continue to move forward. I mean, and if we're looking like for support from the park board, we would definitely support in good faith trying to move that to ensure that we are in compliance. And if we have to investigate that a little more, maybe Tyler can.
So Nicole, my question was, that June 15th deadline that the CDBG has given us, is that only for the parking lot portion and the sidewalks that meet their ADA requirement? Or when they're looking at a project completion, does that include the entire park?
Typically, it's going to be, with any grant money like that, is going to be what is designated to be the project. So if it was applied for and it was set out as being the parking lot in those areas, then yes, that would, suffice. That's where I think it goes back to what was the actual application. If it was put forth as, the full project, and the only reason that there's a little bit of question with that is I know that Tyler had shared with me some emails that also involved from the DNR. So it's kind of that where they were determining things that they were talking about, guardrails and things of that nature along the watershed line. So is that something then that CDBG is determining as being a part of it? I think it really turns on the language of the application, and what the language of the application said is the limits of the project.
And so I briefly read the application, so, I don't want to be quoted on it, but I believe, and we'd have to have Nicole look at it, it's mainly written to the CDBG for the parking lot, sidewalks, they use the word boardwalk, I think, or something along those natures. So it seems to me it's more of just kind of not necessarily like I don't know, anything
Yeah.
playground
The
related.
documents that were submitted, Beth, if you know with that, did that include the breakdown from the Arch Group?
It did not include the breakdown from the Arch Group.
Good.
However, it did use the total from the Arch Group. So
The
the
500.
project, see, this is where I'm concerned. The project amount that was quoted was that 502,000. So that amount encompasses the entire project.
Exactly. That clearly is not what CDBG funds are paying for. So
Right.
I think that, I think that's what's going to be the turning point. Now, whether or not the clarification may be with the county of streamlining that a little bit more, or it might just be that may be the nature of the letter. I guess I would still step back and question with that, though, is can that portion of the project, be bid separately still, advertised appropriately, timelines, all of that, to return bids, to contract, to even complete that under the time frame? Or is that, for example, for the playground, and pardon me that I don't know the exact layout of it, but to get to the playground to do the work, does the parking lot space need to be, still vacant, unchanged, where then the parking lot would be the last step in the process so that everything progresses properly? I mean, I think there's a few more questions that go into it that way. Even if we could break it down and perhaps separate out a few of these ADA items, I think that's a definite possibility, but how that transitions into have the phases of the project, if you will.
So do you think it would be safest then, because I think everybody would be in agreement that we don't want to lose the grant money.
Right.
So would it be the safest bet for us to ask the CDBG, Lori Burke, if we can just go into a different project, like potentially finishing the Gates bike path, because we know that's something that we can do. We know that they've passed that project 2 years ago for meeting the ADA requirements, and we don't lose the money. I'm getting nervous because we're on the,
Okay. My recommendation actually is to not finalize a decision.
okay.
My recommendation would be to give Tyler the authority to, with my assistance, with Beth's assistance, to be able to investigate this a bit further with Lori Burks to determine if there is a way, if the Arsh Group can separate this to the county's liking on that to proceed with this project, and if not, to properly identify one of the other projects that would fit, that is on the discussion list, if you will, of the park board, and then to proceed to the council to make that change in the letter if need be, to be able to use these CDBG funds. The funds are to the municipality. So I'm 100% with you. The letter needs to come from President Sweats in making that change. Those are, dedicated funds there. It would just be used, obviously, on a park project. But I believe in giving Tyler that authority. That furthers the intention of this board, furthers the intention for the town in using those funds, and it doesn't cause further delay.
And would it be possible to have that decision, do you think, made by next town
That's
council
what I was going to
meeting?
ask. Does that mean, would we have to wait till next March to make? or-
No. I
We
mean,
have any authority.
That would be, okay, we could just figure
I-
out,
yeah.
okay,
If they give you the
Right.
authority to do so, then you can proceed.
sure.
And act on, in furtherance and in the best interest of the park board, and then obviously report back to the board. And if there is anything that, at that point, there needs to be a vote on the action that you've taken, if it's needed, then, they can affirm it at that time. But with the board's consent, clearly can have that authority to proceed on behalf and to obviously, work with Beth and then make the appropriate request to the council to, move to another project if need be.
Okay, well, I'd like to consider then that the board, looking at old business, the CDBG grant, that we give authority to Tyler and allow him to work in conjunction with Ms. Nicole and Ms. Beth for the best options of exploring, of getting this accomplished, and we'll just give him the authority to move forward with that. If anybody wants to.
Need a motion.
I hope I get it all right. All right, so on behalf of the board, we give the authority to Tyler to proceed on behalf of the board for the projects and old business.
A
I'll
motion.
second that.
That's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
I have a question while we're kind of on that. Do we need now to do something to get founders going?
Yeah, that was going to be my next, see what action we want to take on that one as well.
I think that's before all of us, so I'm not really sure what the next step is on Founders Park. I mean, do we just see, let's get going, or like, is there something there, what it's gonna cost, or what the next step is?
Would there be separate steps to, one, request an additional appropriation and then proceed with the bidding process?
So I guess your first decision would be, do you want to proceed forward with Founder's Park now? Or do you want to keep it in the holding pattern that it's been in until you're guaranteed some type of letter from, where's the grant from?
The DNR?
The DNR, saying that, were awarded this reimbursement grant of $250,000. I know, or whatever the reimbursement ends up being. I know you said you received an email or some sort of letter saying, go ahead and proceed. It's not necessarily a matter of if, it's a matter of when. But as a board, I guess that your first thing would be to decide, do you want to proceed now in good faith that at some point you're going to get that money back in reimbursement? Or do you want to keep it in a holding pattern? If you want to proceed with moving Founder's Park forward, then, of course, it's got to go through the bidding process, like I think Nicole had mentioned. It's to that point. TAGI would then have to create or provide the bidding documents if he hasn't done so already. We have $250,000 set aside for it, but it's estimated at $502,000. So that would require an additional appropriation out of your park impact fund to, finish the project up to that amount. And then, of course, when the reimbursement money comes through, it would just be receipted back into your park impact fund. But like Tyler said, we can't tell you when.
But it is coming, so that we're assured that they will reimburse us.
We've received that assurance
Confident with that, then?
Verbally,
verbally.
verbally. you've
Well,
received it.
and through email, but
How long would it take to get a confirmation in
You're
writing?
not going to.
No.
That's the whole holding pattern that Tyler's talking about and Beth has referenced, is because of the holdup at the federal level. The DNR sounds like just as frustrated in not having those approvals, but to actually officially have the grant award letter, I think they're hoping it comes yesterday, right? But whether that comes the next week or comes in 6 months is, I
My
think-
suggestion would be probably to show good faith and move a little forward with it.
I think we should get going with it, because
I mean,
it's been sitting for 2 years, going on
The
3.
question really turns on, at the end of the day, if you don't get the award, do you still want to do the project at
Right.
500,000?
I think we do.
And if the answer there is yes, then my advice would be if the money's there, it's a no-brainer, you proceed. If it's hung up on the match of the 250 for financial purposes and all of that, then, that would be the further consideration of perhaps waiting, if nothing else, from a financial budgeting standpoint of at what point in the year the money's coming, but,
Can they bid out about $250,000 worth? And just sort of wait and see where we're at
To start, you mean?
to start,
To start it.
type of a thing? I don't know.
based on how it really is going to depend on kind of the same situation of what has to happen, in what phase, at what time.
Because you
Obviously,
think-
the site work, and you're clearly gonna have some time in here just because of weather, right? For even the site to be properly prepared. So you're at a good point to do that, to be able to make that determination. I really think it will depend on how the bid docs are written.
Because my thoughts are, so if it has a pavilion and this and that, maybe you could just start with the playground equipment and not do the pavilion until you're guaranteed that grant
I mean, there's a
reimbursement.
lot of
There-
work that would need to be done before the large amounts, so,
We got options,
yeah.
That's-
absolutely.
It's definitely not going to be one, well, it might be one company, but it's not going to be one contractor that's going to, do this. It's going to be in,
Phases.
some level of, that being conducted. So you have, it's not under the rush, obviously, if it's not looking at the CDBG dollars, but clearly, the site work and the preparation that needs to happen. And perhaps also if that is how the Arch Group knows on wanting to proceed, they might be able to put it out for bid accordingly, almost in a phasing. I also would anticipate that there would be some order time, obviously, and perhaps even some downtime on where things are at with getting that playground equipment anyway. So there may be some delay just in that alone, in having that delivered where their money wouldn't be due until later.
Want to make a motion to,
Yeah. Thank you for that, Beth, and Ms. Nicole, we thank you for that. Yeah, I'd like to consider then that the park board recommend approval of moving forward with the Founder's Park project.
I'll make a motion for the approval to start the work at the Founder's Park project.
I'll second that.
That's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Just to clarify, Beth, does the motion have to be made for an additional appropriation, or is that something we can take?
Do that later.
Okay.
And Mike, thank you for capturing that and bringing that back to our attention. Appreciate it and everyone's input. We could move on to old business, item C, update on the community garden at Hatno Park project.
Sure, so in your packet are fees and guidelines for the project. I've been working with the committee on these documents. The fees we had proposed was $40 for residents and $50 for non-residents. That would be an annual fee to rent one of the raised plots. And there would also be an agreement to sign as part of the registration process that includes some of the policies for the project. Also in your packet is a proposed ordinance that would establish a special revenue fund where any donations, fees, et cetera, that were collected for the garden would go into that fund, and then any expenses related to the project would come out of that fund, like a water bill, for example. And then I have some fence quotes for a proposed fence at that location as well. Perhaps before we get into that, I know Tony, one of the committee members, is in the audience. I think she was going to update the board on some of the progress they've been making.
Hi, guys.
Hello, Tony.
So, a couple things, some of the progress that has been made. One item was back in May, we put a post on Facebook to ask people, are you for sure interested in a box? And we came up with 27 names of people who said yes, they wanted to rent, they would be interested in renting a box. We had 5 more people, just friends, word of mouth. And then since then, we've got 2 more people who expressed interest. So far, we have 34 names of people who are interested in the box.
And I'm sure
renting a
word of
box.
mouth would definitely expand that, so.
Yeah, for sure. Another item was, we were able to secure in-kind donation for all of the soil for the boxes. We had gotten various prices from other locations, and they were like $1,700 to $2,000, so this will be quite a savings for that donation. Another item was we've received an agreement with Schilling to receive 20% off the cost of the lumber for the boxes. So I feel like we've made good progress as far as showing support of the project, not only community support in the financial aspect, but then also in the renters.
Did we come up with a mandatory, the wood, type of the wood that we're gonna be using for them?
We're going to use cedar.
Okay.
Did we ever clear up the liability for any kind of insurance? I know we kind of commented on that back in August.
This being that it's on town property, would be covered in that sense as to any, incident that would happen, whether it was any type of personal injury or property liability damage. The fact that the property is in fact town property and all of the building materials and all of that that are provided are coming from the park board, would have that all, falling under that category. By the agreement alone, it prohibits the storage and maintaining on the site of any other property from any members or any of the participants, obviously, other than what they're planting. So it's not overlapping into, protection or something of someone else's property. So there wouldn't need to be anything else that would be done.
Okay, good. Ms. Tony, thank you for that update. And are we looking to accept the ordinance? Are we?
That would be one action that I believe would have to be taken.
Be a recommendation to the council
To the council.
to approve or and to pass the ordinance that would create, obviously, the funds specifically for this money.
It looks really promising, and man, it looks like you've done a lot, and the commitment and everything, and I know I'll be going through there. We love flowers. Who doesn't like flowers, right? We all love it. So, we'd like to consider support and approval from the park board for the ordinance to go forward to the town for the park project.
I'll make a motion for the approval to approve the ordinance for the gardening project.
I'll second it.
That's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Do we need to do anything with the fencing at this time, you think?
Yeah, so that's another item I had included in your packet. I actually went out and got 4 quotes because I was kind of confused by the amounts that were coming back. The supplier's costs right now, they're fluctuating quite a bit as companies are having a difficult time maintaining an inventory. So the same quotes that you see in front of you now could be, 20% higher or even more next week. A few of the companies kind of echoed the same thing, that this could be a pretty difficult year for them. So Reeves, they came in on February 1st. That quote's good for 30 days. They came in quite a bit lower than the other ones. As you can see, they range from just under 7,000 to all the way up to just under 16,000. And it should be noted, I mean, these quotes are spec'd out the same.
Wow.
Tyler, if there's a delay with them getting materials, how will that affect the ability to move forward with the park? Or with the gardens, rather?
I mean, I think that we could at least get it going without a fence. I mean, if need be, at least initially, if it got to that point. The contractors I spoke with feel like that, mid-April is doable.
Oh, okay. Just thinking there again of the property liability, things of that nature. But
Sure.
that clearly is going to be right at the very beginning of the season and opening up in April.
I kind of defer to my fence guy. You got the
I'm gonna favor, no matter what, I'm gonna favor Fence Masters,
fence
because
master.
they've done a lot of work for the town, for the baseball. Everything they've done has been, spectacular. Look, what they put around the dumpster. Reeves, when we asked them to bid the ballparks for the Babe Ruth field, we put all new fencing around that, I think 2 or 3 years ago. Ended up being like a $60,000 project. They came out twice, wouldn't give me a bid. I called him back. He goes, I'm not interested in doing your guys' work. He wouldn't call me. I just had to keep calling him. It was a very bad experience I had in that.
Okay.
That's why with him, I'm, Dimension, I've never dealt with Dimension. I honestly don't know much about them.
I know for
But
me,
the-
I'd like to have it done and have it done right. That's going to represent the town, obviously. And I'd be,
Tyler, have you looked into the warranty on these companies? Are they all the same? I don't know, or?
I mean, I know the specs are all the same on the projects. I mean, I haven't looked into, these are just proposals. They don't really provide, not all of them, I should say, provide warranty information.
I'm just
Mr.
looking at
President.
almost a $6,000 increase from one to the other. That's a large amount.
Mr. President,
yes.
I'm not sure, did Dimension do our dog park? That name rings a bell, but I'm not sure.
I,
Precision Fence did the dog park, Wayne.
Did it?
They,
Okay,
they
I'm
they
sorry.
provided a quote as well.
All right, thank you.
yeah, they're pretty high.
What is the difference, Tyler?
I'm sorry?
What is the difference between, for what you're saying that the specs all match, that
Uh,
I agree, obviously, in evaluating these is your past experience plays into this, but unfortunately, you know, you can't just go to the same company over and over because of the company that you like. That doesn't meet the statute and your obligations. In that sense, there's got to be some reasons that you find in making a selection, especially with this large disparity in the cost.
Well, one, I mean, I know that for Precision specifically, I was kind of given the heads up that that'll probably come in higher because they have a much smaller outfit than the other ones. And he flat out told you he basically works by himself. So that's the reason why that one would come in higher. I can't speak to how, why Fence Masters is also high. Now, Dimension Fence, they provided us a quote back in, or I should say, provided the committee with a quote back in the spring of last year that was even lower than what Reeves is. But again, they went to their suppliers for an updated quote, and that was the price of materials now.
Okay, well, you're feeling like Reeves, and then I think, Mike, you're kind of fence master. I'm kind of on the fence about it, but,
No pun intended.
but,
Cute.
no, I could, you know what, for the price, I could see maybe, as long as the quality of work, I could see maybe giving Reeves an opportunity then. What's your thoughts, Tyler, on that?
I mean, it's a
They wouldn't
big
come out-
price.
They wouldn't come back out to my house when my fence won't close. $4,000 fence at my house, they wouldn't come out to fix that. I mean, you get what you pay for. It's the lowest bid.
Well, about a $6,000 difference, so,
Well, I mean, there's also dimension too, at 95. I mean, that's,
they got the dimensions and footage, 354 foot high. It looks like it's the same.
because they're at 95. It's still almost 4,000 cheaper than Fence Masters. Have you ever dealt with, Wayne, have you ever dealt with dimensions?
No.
I mean, I'm seeing the proposals expire soon. I mean, I'm seeing that, but
Technically, that one's expired.
I was in good faith. I think my thoughts would be, we'll go with Reeves on this one, give them the opportunity. It's the less expensive, and let's see what they can do. And I'll make a consideration for Reeves fencing for the project.
I'll second the motion.
You make the motion.
I'll make the
I didn't make
motion.
it, did I? I'm sorry. I'm gonna make a motion to accept Reeves' proposal for the fencing.
I'll second it.
It's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
All right, thank you, members. Thank you for everyone's input.
And I also believe we would need action on the fees and the guidelines as well.
Correct. On those documents that you presented there. I would just add, just for your awareness, so, just because I think Tyler and I kind of had to go through a few little gymnastics in identifying, obviously, the creation of the community park system, the council had passed last year that made this a permitted use in designated areas of the town. And I point that out to you as in the sense of what the purpose of the ordinance was that the town passed. that this was not created, the community garden system was not created as a town project or even a park department project for that matter, but created this as a permitted use that a non-for-profit organization, a public entity like your board, or a group of individuals could create on property anywhere within the town, that it would be permitted. They'd actually have to come in for zoning, paperwork and all of that if there was needed approvals. But that it would be such the garden idea would be allowed on properties as an accessory structure. Where I think that and I differentiate really what you're passing here today as being something and wanting to recognize the difference, because by the council creating the ability to do this on property, what exactly you want to do with it as the guidelines, rules, number of beds, et cetera, is up to each individual entity who wants to build a garden while working with the garden committee throughout the town. So what rules you pass or plan that you put forth here at Patno Park can be different, and in fact is different in some ways than what was proposed at the prior discussions that were in the summer at the other anticipated location, which was what, Heritage, I believe?
Heartland.
Heartland, thank
Yeah.
you. So what Tyler has presented to you for approval in the documentation for the contract as well as the costs and fees are for the designated area at Patno Park and for the 2021 season. So this would be something that you would be reviewing each year if it's something that obviously you're, proceeding forward with, and then if you're expanding it out in any capacity. But you have the ability to establish that. You have the ability to put forth, what those rules and guidelines are, what those fees are, et cetera. That's not determined, by an ordinance or anything else. And obviously it's going to kind of be a learning, this summer and how this works out. But this would be an ongoing situation that obviously you as the park board have decided to take on and use this property accordingly. But I really just wanted to distinguish that because I don't know, I know I myself did not understand when this was brought up, and I know I was just new and representing the board at that point, but that my understanding was more that this was a town project, when in fact, no, it's the town's ordinance that allowed this to be a permitted use on properties, but the project itself is quite frankly what you've created and what you're moving forward on as being the first, in the town to that respect. So I think that's definitely worth noting and for all of you to realize.
Thank you for clarifying that, Nicole. I should have asked you a little earlier.
Well, I don't know that I had the answer for you then, because it was having to, kind of, it's a different creation in that sense, and it was something very, original in that regard that the council did. So obviously for you to move forward with it now is, a good thing, and obviously what was intended.
Sounds promising.
Tony, I have a question. You mentioned on Facebook your responses. Is this a personal, or did you guys create a page for this? If I didn't miss that.
On the St. John.
Okay.
With that, we'll go back to our amended agenda, and we'll
And approve
now go to
the fees.
Yeah, you need a motion or requesting a motion to approve the registration contract and the fees as set forth in the documents that Tyler presented are included in your packet.
And is that with the ordinance, right?
I believe it was grouped with the ordinance,
It is, yeah, it's.
but it's a separate,
Okay.
there's two documents there. One is the registration, the gardener agreement, and the other, I believe, is the application of registration, Tyler?
Yep.
Registration form and the gardener agreement.
I got it now.
This doesn't have to go in the paper, does it?
Oh, no.
Okay.
So can we make that one motion?
Yeah,
Yes,
So
you
we can make a motion to
The ordinance will. Beth,
accept the
obviously.
gardener agreement and
Fees.
the fees
yes.
for the garden park, family gardening program.
And those are set forth in the registration form. Those fees are, I
Consider
believe.
acceptance of the fees set forth in the gardening registration.
I'll make a motion to accept the fees for the gardening program.
I'll second that.
It's a motion by John Borsman, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
And with that, we'll go back to the agenda, which we amended. Item 5, new business. And we'll get to item A, presentation from Spone Ranch. You have any comments, Tyler? Just
Oh, no, Jeff Zielinski is with us this evening. He is, I was about to say represents Driftwood Collective, but you are Driftwood Collective.
Correct.
It's a nonprofit that's all about providing skating opportunities, helping facilitate those opportunities to the entire region.
Yeah.
He has worked closely with other communities on their skate park projects.
Thank you so very much for the introduction. It's not often that someone kind of knows about the work that we do and the things that we try to accomplish. So yes, I'm Jeff Zielinski. I founded the Driftwood Collective. It started about 5 years ago when skateboarding in the region, we had a lot of failing skate parks. And I noticed that we never really had the big game. You know, if there's one thing that the kids look forward to and that they want to work towards is kind of the big game, the day where they can kind of show off, people see them, to get excited about it, to stay motivated. It was severely lacking and had a park structure that was just kind of fundamentally flawed because we had skate park providers that were putting up sometimes very cheap ramps, very economical type equipment. And now we've seen a dramatic shift in what's being offered to communities and the public, and we're seeing more options being available, and we're starting to see real concrete parks that are becoming available and a lot of advocacy for that. So I would say that the inception of the Driftwood Collective was kind of perfect timing in a way because it was something that meant a lot to me growing up. The skate park is, really where I spent a lot of my time, and I think it shaped a lot of who I am today. So, is that anyone mind?
No, I'm fine.
I appreciate it.
I don't know.
So, it was just kind of a great opportunity to be able to, what can we do about this? So I was a co-founder of the Iliana Skateboarding Circuit. That was just the first idea that we had. We said, we need to put the events together and we need to give a place where these kids can go and they can actually enjoy themselves. And that's what we did. And it kind of just took off. We don't make any money on it. We're a 501c3 organization. All the money that we make, we donate it back to the Parks Department to try to maintain the skate parks. It's something that I absolutely love, a place that all these kids enjoy. And without it, there's a lot of people that would be without. I think that skate parks are a fantastic place for any community. I was a single-parent household kid, and because of that, there was a lot of options that just weren't on the table. And you found that the skate park was a place that you could be and a place that you could learn a lot of the essential life lessons that you learn in a lot of different sports. So that's just a little bit about my background and why I've been advocating kind of around the region to just promote local skate parks and help facilitate the actual skateboarding events. And that's where the Iliana Skateboarding Circuit came to be. We're now a 5-stop circuit. We travel across Northwest Indiana and then into Illinois as well. And we provide the opportunity for people to showcase themselves in a competition-style format. We have usually great prizes. The Asylum Skate Park is generally always a sponsor, and these guys are actually working for real high-dollar prizes, 1-year season pass to local indoor skate park locations. So keep them skating and keep them motivated year-round, so that's kind of the goal. Started working with Highland, and then we were able to get a reputable provider over in Highland, and then again with Hammond. We advocated for a Portage. I'm currently working with Valparaiso and also Crown Point on their initiative, and I'm sure as everyone knows, there's been a few hurdles and bumps along the way, but we're working through all that. I look at myself as the avenue to our local skateboarders. We have a large contact base of people that participate in our events. So when Spone Ranch is looking to build a skate park, I think it was just a natural, marriage, so to speak, to where I can at least get them in touch with the people that they are looking to gather information from. That's what I brought up over here today is just a basic survey. And that survey is, my envision is that we'll send this out to everybody that we possibly can, including my skate park contacts, but I'm hoping that we get some participation from any contact lists that you guys might have as well, so we can get the whole local community engaged. But this would just be a general waiver, and survey, fill out some basic demographic information, and if I could, I'll just switch into what it looks like on the back end, because we've done a lot of work with this to actually gather what public input, what data, what obstacles people actually want to see at their local skate parks. And if I didn't have my link set up, I do apologize. Looks like I didn't have them set up correctly, but that's all right. With Valparaiso, it made us a survey data that looks something similar like this. So when it comes down to what obstacles people want, what age groups, and just all the general information that our park providers or our park designers are going to need to build this skate park, that's where they'll kind of get this data and they'll gather it. So in Valparaiso, you can see they very much wanted a bowl. They wanted a mini ramp. There were certain things that they said, you know what, if we have to cut something, this is what we're going to cut. And those are some of the hardest decisions your park designers have to make. Because everyone's okay with saying, I want this, this, that, and the other. But when you actually say you can select 3, and you have to get rid of 3, you start finding out what's really important. And that's one of the most difficult things when you start building a park, is that everyone says they want everything. So now we're able to take the data and say, this is what's really most important. And when you have to get rid of something, this is what you have to get rid of. So that when we actually deliver a skate park, we're delivering the skate park that these kids, that this community wants. You know, and I shouldn't just say kids, because in Valparaiso, we had 1/3 of our survey respondents, and we had a respondent group of about 500, 495 to be exact. 1/3 of those were over the age of 30. It's fantastic to see that, because what that means is the people that are going to be using that skate park are going to be the older adults that these younger kids will emulate and they'll learn from. That creates a prime environment to actually have a successful skate park. So that was very positive data to see, something that we were very excited about. Skateboarding right now, COVID kind of set us back a little bit, but 2020 we were supposed to be in the Olympics. And then that'll continue to happen. It's only going to be something that continues to grow. Board sales nationally, there's a skateboard shortage, as well as other action sports equipment. And that's because of the increased demand, because it's one of the few things that people can still go to and they can socially distance at. You know, no one ever says, go to the skate park. You know, I'm sure everyone's had a kid that's in team sports. Sometimes you got to motivate them a little bit. With our skaters, they always want to be there, and that's what's great. And that's why I always advocate that these places are in accessible locations, highly visible. That's how you make a successful skate park, is to make sure it's integrated with the community. And I'd just like to say I'm really happy to be here today and have a real thoughtful consideration, because it feels like it wasn't too long ago where skateboarding wasn't, action sports in general just weren't seen that way. So I really want to thank you guys for being here. I think Spone Ranch will be able to discuss a lot of the specifics with you on the park that they envision and the details that they would like to provide. And I think they planned on Zooming in, doing a Zoom conference in. But if you do have any questions, if something is not maybe working out with them, I can usually answer most questions just because I've worked with Spone Ranch, I've worked with Hunger Skate Parks. I'm responsible for getting American Ramp Company removed from some of the other skate parks. They're the ones that put up some of the skate parks that had no longer, they didn't do a great service to the communities that they provided for. So I've been working with them very closely on a number of parks, and I do know quite a bit of details. So if you have any questions, please fire away. I do want to try to make sure that it's not only about building a skate park, but it's about establishing what happens with that skate park afterward, right? How do we drive involvement? That's a big part of my competitions, and something that I try to motivate every skate park to be competition friendly. So we can put that kind of stuff together for these kids.
Assuming you're a skateboarder yourself,
Sure am.
are you currently still skateboarding?
Sure am.
Still do it?
Yeah, actually just competed in Tampa Pro February of last year.
Nice.
Yep. This year it got postponed, but all the big name skaters and all of that. Yeah,
I
I
don't
was
want to
on.
brag, but I did meet Tony Hawk, so I'm.
Nice, nice.
I have shook his hand before, so.
Not bad. But yeah, still actively do skateboard. Actively sponsored skateboarder. I do some travel, but most of the work that I do is in the local community. It's really about that. If, you could probably take one look at me and say, you might be just a little past your prime. But hey, you know what? I'm still going for it. Still playing around, having fun, and taking, traveling wherever it takes me. So
I'm interested. Do you have YouTube videos that we could watch some of your skating talents, or?
You know what? I could probably pull up my Instagram
Well,
right
I
now.
mean, not now, but.
Okay, yeah.
I know we got to move forward, but I'm talking in general. Like, do you
Right.
have YouTube
Yeah.
videos that people could go to and just?
So most of my content is now on Instagram. Jet Black Skateboards, they'll put up, they're one of my sponsors, they'll put up some of the videos on their YouTube channel. I have some on mine as well, but at least I think I do. But most everything had been Instagram content. That's really where a lot of the content has been going. And
Ladies, are you Instagramming now?
On Facebook, I'm in that generation.
at JEFZIE212. But yeah, absolutely. So it's something I fell in love with. It's something that, until I can't do it anymore, I just absolutely will continue to do it. I think everyone needs a hobby in life. I think that that's one of the most important things that you can have. I think it humbles you. I think it is what we're all driving for, is that, I love my primary work. I work for in-health ambulance service. I've been an EMT for many years. I absolutely love my job, but I think we all do our job for something a little bit more, something a little bit outside of work. And, that's mine. And it's something that I just don't think will ever go away. I think you have to have that as a person. I think you have to have that as a healthy person. I think that's what we're all striving for.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Thank you for that, Jeff, and, we look forward to having you as a resource, and, hopefully from the town of St. John, we'll have people moving forward that'll maybe pick up the mantle one day. Any other questions, comments for Jeff, or?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you for being here, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, I appreciate the time. Thank you, everybody.
Before you leave, though, I would like to write that information down, because I do want to check it out.
Absolutely. I'm sure I have a pen in my bag. I'll write
Okay,
down.
great.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you very much. Okay.
And new business, item B?
Mr. President,
Yeah.
we still got a presentation from Spone Ranch.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Is that going on the, all right, I apologize.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah, I hear myself.
I can hear you.
I'm Adam from Spawn Ranch. I'm with Vince from Spawn Ranch as well. And I'll just come out and say it. Jeff Zielinski is actually one of the best skateboarders in the region. You're probably a little too modest to say it, but he's very talented.
I would second that. Yes, I met Jeff through the Highland Project and have known him for many years now. And yeah, Jeff's a great guy and a great resource, as you guys said.
And we look forward to seeing some of his activities on the YouTube and Instagram. And we're pretty excited about the opportunity that we have here in St. John to move forward. Kind of looking at some of your, if you could kind of like explain your concept for what you think that we need to do going forward.
Well, sure. So I've prepared some conceptual renderings, and here we'll just show them. Vince probably can answer some questions regarding purchasing and procurement, but I'll wow you with what we put together for St. John. Can you see my screen? I'm kind of looking at YouTube. I think there's a little delay, but I believe it's going to pop up any second.
We're seeing your video screen.
All right,
Or like
let's
your
try
meeting
this.
screen.
You're probably sharing the wrong screen.
Let me see here. 1 second, sir. Pardon me. Let's do that one more time. Share. That one. How about that? Yeah. Hey.
We got you.
See,
All right.
yeah, Google Street View.
All right. So I was lucky enough to spend a few hours with Tyler and Wayne last month. We met here at Gates in the new parking lot area, specifically to check out this section of the park. Kind of to see how a skate park might fit into this site. I like the street view because the street view actually shows the houses that have been built since that satellite picture was taken. So we walked a little bit. There was some snow on the ground. Walked a little bit, took some photos. It's a good site. Obviously, there's some challenges. You've got the power lines and some houses. We also took the opportunity to walk around, or to see a couple other sites in town. But this site actually is the one that we're gonna work with. So what we did, our design team, we took one of our pre-existing designs from our extensive design library, and basically placed it over that site. So I'll pull that up and give you a little glimpse of what that looked like, what that came out like. So here is a 3D rendering of Gates of St. John Skate Park, or what could be. Now, this is a pre-existing design. This is actually a park that we did build out in Harbor City, California, down by Long Beach. But it seemed to fit the size and kind of scale of the site at Gates. So obviously here is an overview. I've got many different camera angles. We'll start jumping to the next one because they're a little bit more dramatic than just an overhead view. But this is approximately 11,000 square foot of skating surface. We added in an access path and a staging area or a spectator area with a shade sail, just to kind of show what could be. Here's another angle, and this gives you an idea of the proximity to the homes and parking lot. We added some plantings just to kind of show what a kind of a mature park might look like. Also, it would kind of buffer maybe some of the park sounds from the homes. Here's another angle here. This is looking at basically you're over the homes looking down. You're looking south. And this park is pretty, let's say, it does a lot for all different abilities, and that's something that Spawn does. We do really well, and that is create skate parks that are for all different user groups and ability levels. So you have kind of a designated section over here. We've got a inside radius section here, and then it opens up to kind of a sunken in lower grade basin area here. A series of rails and hubbas and things like that. There's going to be lots of different terms that you'll start to learn over this process. But you'll have a down rail, stair set, hubba. We like to add architectural details like we're showing here. That's a bollard. So I sometimes call it a target ball, something that would be outside of a Target store. And then some legend, things like that. So these are all skatable objects. This is all skatable surface. I'm going to move to the next one real fast.
Adam, if I can jump in for a second while you're doing that. So just to clarify, so this is just a concept from our library that we overlaid on your site just to give you guys a visual, kind of a discussion tool, and to give you guys a sense for scale for how big these skate parks are and how they fit into sites. So this is not our proposed design for this project or a final design by any means. What we would do going forward, if you choose to work with us, is to gather input from the community via Jeff and his great survey tools and and other methods and gather all that community feedback to find out what type of skate park the community is looking for. And then we will create a custom design specific to your site and specific to your community. So again, this is just kind of a preliminary visual. Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, that looks really good, and I kind of had a question, kind of like, I would be a novice, I have no real idea of the skating aspect, I'm not a Johnny Bozema, but I like a swimming pool, like, do you have something like for younger, like the littler kids, is that something that would fit in there, or that is practical to put into something like this?
Sure. So this bowl that's showing right here actually has different radii, different heights. And I've actually skated this bowl, and it's a very forgiving bowl to skate. But not only then we call this transition. So anything that's going from a horizontal to a vertical in that transition is, or that arc, that would be known as transition. But in this park, we're showing, and again, this is just a conceptual design that we pulled from our library that's, that's designed to show the scale. But this particular park has smaller transition here for beginners and intermediates, where this bowl can be used for all different riders' abilities. This bowl here is probably around 7 feet deep, maybe 4.5 to 7. And of course, during the design process or during the development process, we'll collect the data to find out what type of riders and what ability levels, and design to that, to those parameters.
Well, that answered my question, and appreciate that, thank you.
Indeed. I think I've got one more camera view, so let's see if I can pull that up really fast here. And these will all be available. I can send them over to Tyler and Wayne so that you guys can bounce them around. And this is just a view looking, looks like it's looking east. Gives you a different perspective. So yeah, let me show you just for kicks what this park looks like built. Similar, this is a version of that park. Obviously, there are some differences. There are more elements added in, and that's what happens during the design process. Is things shift and change and get tweaked a little bit. But this park is a huge, very popular park. Some of the best pros in the world skate it regularly. I was able to skate it last January, and it's one of my favorite parks. Just to give you an idea.
Nice.
Were there any further questions regarding the conceptual design, or the sometimes we call it a placeholder design, just to kind of give you a sense of scale.
And you said that was 11,000 square feet?
Approximately 11,000 square foot of skatable surface. So that would not include the sidewalks or the spectator area.
Guys, would you know the square footage of the Hammond skate park?
Yeah, Hammond is about 9,000 square feet, and then the Highland project was about 7,000 square feet. And just to give you a sense for budget, so the Highland project was $300K, and that's a turnkey price for both design and construction services. Highland procured our products and services via Sourcewell for a budget of $300,000. And then the Hammond project, I'm gonna have to double check this, but I think was somewhere around 425-ish, somewhere around there. So we build skate parks for as little, our minimum skate park's probably in that $150K range. And then we build skate parks as much as $1 million. Our average project's probably in that, 400, 500K range, just to kind of give you a sense for the range of costs and square footages.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yes, thank you for that.
I have a question. In designing the skate park, you do not want to design one that's exactly like Hammond or Highland. You want to make it more unique and, to the area, so, there's interest in it. So, in my understanding, by going to some of these parks, I've talked to some of the kids, and people using them, that's what they like. They like the adversity, that you don't want to have the same thing. Because if people in Hammond, or
Yeah.
if they want to travel, these guys, it's like a community, they travel from park to park. Because of the difference, of what's going on in the park.
Absolutely, that's totally correct. Yeah, both ourselves as designers, we don't want to recreate the same thing we've already done, just, from our personal artistry. And then also the skateboarders, as you said, they definitely appreciate variety. So it's definitely a win-win in that sense.
And then I have another question, Sourcewell. Can you explain how Sourcewell works and what advantages we have by using Sourcewell? And I think Hammond and Highland both use Sourcewell, and Spone Ranch.
Yeah, that's correct. So Sourcewell is going to save a lot of time. That's the biggest advantage of Sourcewell, is that it really speeds up the process. It's significantly more efficient and effective in terms of timing than your typical or traditional procurement or bid process. So that's the number one reason. So Sourcewell is a government agency, and every 4 years they conduct a formal competitive bid process throughout a number of different categories. We respond to the Parks and Recreation category. And so when you use Sourcewell, you're not skipping the bid process or bypassing the bid process. You are using Sourcewell. You are basically piggybacking on the bid process Sourcewell already conducted. So you're fully in compliance with Indiana state law regarding bidding. So you're not skipping the bid process. You're just using the bid process Sourcewell already conducted. So yes, every 4 years, Sourcewell conducts a bid process. They prepare an RFP, they advertise that RFP, they have a pre-proposal meeting, then they receive the bids, they review those bids, they score the bids, and then they have an evaluation committee that awards contracts. So when we submit our bid to Sourcewell, basically we create line item pricing for every single component involved in a skate park, every possible product and service involved in skate park design and construction. We submit line item pricing for that. So, and then we get awarded a contract based on that. So then when we come to a municipality and they say, hey, we want to work with you, basically we create a design, and then we break that design down into all those different line items, the same line items from our Sourcewell bid. And then basically you are piggybacking off the bid process that already happened. So then we will, once we have agreed on a design, we prepare a Sourcewell proposal with all those various line items. You guys review that proposal and then issue a purchase order based on that. So yes, as you said, both Highland and Hammond use Sourcewell. It probably cut 4 to 6 months out of the process and allowed us to move very quickly. And both those projects went very well. So that's kind of a quick overview.
Thank you.
Thank
Yep.
you.
I just have one last question. Adam, have you ever impersonated Matthew McConaughey?
Not yet.
I just had to ask because, you look like his twin.
He's one of my favorite guys. I like that guy. He's a Lincoln lawyer.
Good one.
Funny.
Any other questions or comments?
I
Mr.
do.
President, I think if the board is happy with what they've seen, you might want to make a motion to proceed with this, so we don't waste the valuable time. Like he says, it takes 6 months if you use a different company, but that's your pleasure.
Well, I was going to ask Nicole, what was your recommendation?
I have a few questions if I can.
Yes.
Vince, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, my name's Nicole Bennett. I'm the attorney for the board.
Yeah.
A few questions for
Hello.
you.
Yeah.
In regard, first and foremost, obviously St. John is going to have to go through the process to identify, if they choose to move in this direction, identify Sourcewell as its purchasing agent and pass the appropriate ordinance to make that happen. which obviously will have to happen at the council level. In the meantime, however, what is the process that you require for engagement for professional services? I understand that perhaps that can be contracted separately, but obviously we don't want to, if this is the way in which the board wants to move forward and the election is to do that, then obviously we don't want to lose time by the bureaucratic things that have to take place to be able to officially use Sourcewell as its purchasing agent. So what can be done in the meantime that your company would allow, whether that be hire your company for professional services, which the board can do without obviously bidding that, to engage you to proceed forward, or is there another form of contract that you practice under?
Yeah, for sure. I understand the question. So yeah, first of all, you guys are already a member of Sourcewell. Adam looked that up previously. So you are an existing member of Sourcewell, and according to their records, have used the program previously to procure something, we don't know what. So that's a good start. So yeah, if you had said, we love Sourcewell, we can definitely use Sourcewell, we've already, run it by our purchasing department, they love it, it's a go, then when we do Sourcewell, we do all the, in that case, we do all the design work pro bono, and we get started right away with developing the design. And then you guys purchase that design or that skate park via Sourcewell. In this case, where you're saying, we're interested in Sourcewell, but we haven't confirmed that's the way we want to go, in order to get started with design work, then yes, I can prepare a proposal for you. Adam and I can prepare a proposal for you, for just a nominal fee of a few $1,000s to begin some conceptual design work, so that we are moving, in the meantime, and, things aren't standing still. So yeah, if you're not fully, committed to Sourcewell just yet, that's fine. But yeah, we can just, give you a proposal for a few grand and get started on design work.
If that, and again, I'm looking at just obviously from the legality, if the board makes the election that they do want to move forward with Sourcewell, but obviously they're not at the ability to be able to contract with that because of the need for the ordinance, you would still proceed, without that, based on just a vote of the board in that respect, knowing that those other documents would potentially be forthcoming?
You're saying just with the board's motion to pursue Sourcewell, but not have formal commitment from city council, is that what you're saying? Or town council?
From the preliminary search, yes, to answer your question, from the preliminary search that we've done, yes, obviously St. John is a member of Sourcewell, but have not been able to locate yet when the services were used. Or, in fact, if it's an antiquated ordinance, that if it does in fact exist, that, had appointed Sourcewell previously as an agency, or as its purchasing agent. Do you have the means to determine when St. John would have utilized Sourcewell services, or is there someone else that can through Sourcewell directly? Because that would probably expedite our process a lot too.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we have some great contacts at Sourcewell, so I'm sure they could easily look that up in their system. So yeah.
Because if we might have already done all the things that need to be done in the past, and this board just is not, and I'm not aware of that.
Sure. Yeah, so yeah, we'll contact them first thing in the morning and have them look that up in their system and provide you guys with any info that they give to us.
And I believe that obviously this, is clearly beneficial to the town, if not to proceed forward on. But just to clarify, though, that with the vote of this board to proceed with Sourcewell, and they have that ability in their capacity as the independent park board, you would contractually, or I guess without a contract, just on that, would be able to rely and proceed forward.
Yeah, we would be comfortable with that, with the board making that motion. Yeah, it's not a formal or binding, agreement in any way, but, we've already done some work pro bono to this point. Adam has come and met with you guys. We're excited about the project. Love working with Jeff, obviously. So yeah, I think we would be comfortable with that to continue moving forward and start working on a design. Obviously, we're not going to take it, too far down the road where we're preparing, formal construction blueprints and all the technical engineering and really getting into all that, very formal technical design. We probably wouldn't go that far.
Yikes. Can't hear him though.
As being possible here today, I think we'd be comfortable moving forward, creating a conceptual design and getting that in motion. We're comfortable with that.
And alternatively, Vince, if there was the need to have to do a professional services agreement to facilitate that, if we realize that, those documents aren't in place already, any payment made, any contract with you for a fee for professional services and any payments made, would that apply to any later contract for the full job?
Can you clarify? I don't think I followed the question.
If we determine that, in fact, we're going to have to go through the process of passing the full ordinance, so it's going to take a little bit longer than being able to jump in
Right.
completely, whereby we do need to engage with you for professional services to start,
Right.
obviously, the full architecture and all of that. Any fees that were then paid to you as part of that, would that apply to the total contract once that was initiated and approved for the entire project?
Yeah, are you asking, would we kind of back charge you for the conceptual design work that we would have done to that point?
Yeah, or credit what monies were paid already, if in fact we had to do a professional services agreement.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we do, we rebate design services and build that into the construction scope or just waive design fees altogether. So yeah, we're flexible in that sense.
Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate your guidance. It helps a lot.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and we'll get in touch with Sourcewell first thing in the morning and report back to you.
Thank you for that.
Great. Thank you.
And then, what would you recommend then, that we move forward with Spone Ranch?
Absolutely.
in good faith?
I can tell you that I have had, communications with both Hammond and Highland representatives that have worked with Spahn Ranch previously, and obviously I give the highest regard is not, high enough to say what they provide with the expertise and the artistry of the work here, that this is so much more detailed than, quite frankly, just concrete and construction work.
Right.
But obviously, it's this board's election and proceeding forward. I'm pleased at the thought that if there is already, obviously, if it has been, if Sourcewell has been used previously by the town as its purchasing agent, there might already be the legal mechanism in place that will definitely expedite your ability to move forward on this. But if you are inclined, to do so at this point, then what I would recommend is a motion to approve proceeding with their services as professional services, and obviously, as we determine these other items, and their, sounds like commitment and past history of proceeding, as you indicated, to do some of that work. You do not, even if we determine that they are not completely, everything has not been done yet by the town for purposes of allowing Sourcewell to be a purchasing agent, you are still within the law to proceed with them and make that motion accordingly to do so, because they fall under the category of a professional service for what they would be beginning to do, as Vince indicated, the design work, the architecture, those kinds of things, maybe not full, complete plans, obviously, as he said, without further contracting, but at least with laying out and beginning that process. That is not a job, if Sourcewell is not identified as a purchasing agent yet by a town, that is not a service that you have to bid. That professional service, you have the ability to hire directly to do so. So if this is a path in which you would take, I would recommend a motion to proceed with Sourcewell in that capacity as for the professional services to begin the development of the skate park, and to further follow through with having Sourcewell named as a purchasing agent for the town.
All right, I'd like to consider moving forward for the skate park with Sourcewell.
I'll make a motion to proceed with Sourcewell Professional Services.
I'll second that.
It's a motion by John Borsmas, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Okay, Spone Ranch, we thank you for your time and your input and your thoughts and ideas, and we're pretty excited, so thank you for that.
Thank you, Vince and Matthew.
I'm going to add
Yeah.
additionally, just to clear
one.
or ask for a second motion, obviously to proceed with Sourcewell as a purchasing agent, but even more specifically, to engage with Spawn Ranch for professional services for the development of the skate park.
For the development.
Yes, and obviously, once we can finalize all the rest of the items, it would be proceeding forward with a contract from there through the process that Vince described, but to personally, or to formally engage with Sourcewell for those
Sourcewell.
services. I'm sorry, with Spawn Ranch for those services.
Okay. Like to consider moving forward on the skate park conceptually and for the design with Spone Ranch.
I'll make a motion to proceed with Spawn Ranch on the design of the skate park.
I'll second that.
It's a motion by John Borsmas, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Thank you. Any questions, gentlemen, or any comments?
Excited to work with you.
Thank you.
Likewise.
Yep, excited as well. And we'll have Jeff give you guys all skateboarding lessons so you guys can drop in at the grand opening.
Right here. All right. Thank you.
He can fix us with breaking arm or something.
Yeah.
I think we should have a throwdown with,
Yeah.
like Bobby Flay, and you and Jeff can duke it out on the.
I'm ready. I'm ready to learn. You're never too old to learn.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yep, thanks everyone, have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
moving on with the agenda, item 7, reports and correspondence. Board members?
Mike?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, we got.
The Lake Hills?
Yeah, so last month I reported on the drainage issue that we're having at the Lake Hills Trail. This is the section between Settlers Court and Whitewater Crossing, where water's collecting and then silty soils are washing onto the trail. It's been an ongoing issue. Reading back through Park Board minutes, at least from 2 years ago, was something they were dealing with. In your packet are 3 quotes from contractors to do repair work on that section of trail. Gabe and I met all 3 contractors on the site. So the work needed, they're going to have to excavate the existing path, stabilize the base, repave the path, and then install a drain tile along that section. I should note that Metro's quote does not include paving, but even without paving, it was quite a bit higher than the St. John paving quote. And based on this information we received, Gabe and I recommended to we move forward with St. John paving because the scope of the work is what we feel would fix the problem, and then the price point as well, as it's lower than the other
It
2
is
options.
They got 23,750.
Well, then right. It was 37,500 total with the excavation work and the repaving.
So would there be anything more than that? Like, would we want to just approve the 37.5 or would it not exceed 40,000 or what would you recommend?
No, this was, we went on the high end just in case, worst case scenario.
So that's at 37.5.
Yeah. That's assuming that, that whole section needs this work.
We had all the pictures, we seen everything, so, we know it's got to be done, it's got to be taken care of. like to consider St. John paving for the Lake Hills Trail repair.
I'll make a motion for St. John paving for the trails in Lake Hills.
I'll second that.
It's a motion by John Boersma, second by Mike Moffett. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 3-0.
Now we'll move to item 7, reports and correspondence, board members. Staff.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that our new hire, Jamie Maxberry, his full-time maintenance position started Friday, February 5th. And he's currently in week 3 of Gabe's boot camp.
What was his start date?
Friday, February 5th.
That's awesome.
If you notice, they've been working really hard on keeping the trails clear, which has been quite a job this past couple weeks, but,
A lot of people complimenting.
sure.
People are taking pictures like of a fresh snow, and they're like, it's just all footprints, like a lot of people are using them. Definitely.
Awesome. Sounds good. Mr. Town Council, Mr. Wayne Pondinas.
Tyler already mentioned my comments, so thank you.
Okay. Payment of the bills, item 8, the amount of, I didn't get that sheet, but I think it was $9,616.83.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills for the month of $9,616.83.
I'll second that motion.
It's a motion by Mike Moffett, second by John Boersma. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Any public comment? Motion to adjourn?
I'm sorry, second the motion to adjourn, sorry.